Imagine a place that has forgotten what rain feels like. Not for a few centuries or even a few millennia, but for entire geological eras. Think back to a time before human history, before the ice ages, before the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. 80 million years ago, when the continents were still tearing themselves apart, this land was already a relentless, sun-baked wasteland. When the vast Sahara Desert was still a lush green savanna, teeming with life just 12,000 years ago, this place had already been dead and reborn a million times over. This is the NAMIB, the oldest desert on Earth, a place where time does not flow in seconds or hours, but simply accumulates layer upon layer of rusted red dust and crushing silence. It is a landscape that feels less like a habitat and more like a monument to endurance. But the NAMIB hides a profound, almost impossible paradox. It is one of the driest, most hostile places on the planet, yet its survival is entirely dependent on a freezing ocean. Two forces of nature that should never meet, locked in a silent, invisible war every single day. This is the Cold War of worlds. To understand this paradox, we must travel to the very edge of the African continent, to a place local tribes call the land God made in anger, and Portuguese sailors simply called the Gates of Hell. This is the Skeleton Coast. Here, the monumental red sand dunes do not gently slope into the sea. They crash abruptly into the dark, churning, freezing waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Every day, the mighty Benguela current drags icy water straight from the depths of the Antarctic, all the way up the coast of Africa. And when that freezing ocean air collides with the blistering, radiating heat of the desert sand, the atmosphere fractures. The fog is born. It does not arrive gently. It rolls off the ocean like a living, breathing leviathan, a towering, monolithic white wall of mist that marches inland, swallowing the coastline and drowning 300-meter-high dunes in a ghostly twilight. For centuries, this fog has been a death sentence for humanity. The beaches here are littered with the rusted, decaying iron carcasses of massive shipwrecks, sitting miles inland as the desert slowly reclaims the sea. Next to the ships lie the bleached bones of colossal whales. But for the ancient, highly specialized residents of the NAMIB, this ghostly mist is the only god they know. It is the sole bringer of life in a land of death. Deep in the towering dunes, a creature no larger than a pebble relies on a survival mechanism refined over 60 million years of absolute scarcity. The NAMIB desert beetle does not wait for rain. It knows the rain is a myth. Instead, as the morning fog rolls in, the beetle embarks on a monumental journey. It climbs the steep, shifting slip face of a towering sand dune, struggling against avalanches of microscopic quartz. When it finally reaches the crest, it stops. It tilts its body forward, pointing its abdomen directly up into the misty wind, and it waits in total stillness. Its shell is a masterpiece of biological engineering. The surface is covered in microscopic bumps that are hydrophilic, meaning they actively attract water. The smooth valleys between these bumps are hydrophobic, repelling water. Slowly, as the cold wind blows over the beetle, an impossibly small drop of dew begins to form on its back. As it grows heavy, the drop detaches, rolling down the water-repellent valleys of its shell directly into its mouth. In a landscape that offers absolutely nothing, this tiny architect manages to drink the ghost of the ocean. It is not alone in the mist. Nearby, the translucent NAMIB sand gecko emerges from the cold sand. Its oversized, lidless eyes capture the faint morning light. To survive, it simply waits for the fog to condense on its own eyeballs, using a long, specialized tongue to lick the vital moisture from its own face before the sun burns the fog away. As the morning progresses, the sun rises higher. The fog is obliterated. The true, terrifying brutality of the NAMIB reveals itself. By noon, the temperature of the sand can easily exceed 70 degrees Celsius, 158 degrees Fahrenheit. It is hot enough to physically destroy the cellular structure of most living things. To touch the ground is to burn. Yet, life here refuses to surrender. It simply changes the rules. Further inland, where the coastal dunes give way to the rocky plains and the edges of the vast Kalahari Basin, survival is no longer just about endurance. It is about supreme physiological strategy. In the shimmering heat mirage, a large antelope stands completely motionless. This is the Gemsbok, or oryx. While other animals desperately seek the rare shade of a dying acacia tree, the Gemsbok stands defiantly in the boiling sun. Its body temperature rises to levels that would cause fatal brain damage in a human. But the Gemsbok has a secret weapon hidden inside its skull, a complex network of fine blood vessels known as the carotid rete. As the animal breathes the hot desert air, the moisture in its nasal passages evaporates, cooling the blood in this network just fractions of a second before it enters the brain. The body cooks, but the mind remains perfectly, impossibly cool. An organic air conditioner in the heart of the furnace, but the true masters of strategy in this wasteland are the giants. In the dry, cracked, dust-choked riverbed of the NAMIB, the earth vibrates with a slow, deliberate rhythm. A herd of desert-adapted elephants is on the move. They are leaner and taller than their savanna cousins, with wider feet designed to navigate the shifting sands without sinking. They walk in a single-file line, moving in total silence under a punishing sun. They will travel up to 70 kilometers in a single day, fueled by nothing but dry twigs and the memory of water. They are entirely guided by the mind of one individual, the matriarch. She holds a mental map of this labyrinth that has been passed down through generations of females. She remembers the exact locations of underground water reserves that haven't seen a drop of surface rain in half a decade. She leads her family, exhausted and coated in red dust, to a seemingly random patch of dry sand in the riverbed. She stops. She tests the ground with her trunk, and she begins to dig. With her massive tusks and powerful front legs, she excavates hole after hole. She digs deeper, moving tons of sand until finally 2 meters down, the dark earth begins to seep with precious muddy water. The calves, desperate and dehydrated, wait patiently for their turn to drink. If her memory fails, if she leads them down the wrong canyon, the entire herd will die. There is no margin for error in the oldest desert on Earth, but perhaps the most shocking adaptation belongs to the apex predator. When we think of lions, we picture them stalking fat zebras in tall golden savanna grass. But the lions of the NAMIB have been pushed to the absolute edge of what a feline can endure. Driven by starvation and a barren landscape, some prides have done the unthinkable. They have walked to the edge of the world. These are the only lions on the planet that have learned to hunt marine life. Under the cover of darkness and the rolling coastal fog, they stalk the crashing waves of the skeleton coast. The sensory clash is unimaginable. A predator born for the dusty plains, smelling salt, kelp, and freezing water. They hunt Cape fur seals and cormorants right on the beach, dragging heavy, blubber-rich carcasses across the sand. A terrifying ghost of the desert, adapting to the ocean to stave off extinction. As we move away from the coast and deeper into the heart of the Kalahari, the landscape shifts into something that looks truly alien. Viewed from the sky, the endless plains of red sand and sparse yellow grass are scarred by millions of perfect, barren circles. They stretch to the horizon, hundreds of kilometers wide, looking like a disease on the skin of the earth, or the aftermath of a massive meteor shower. These are the fairy circles. For decades, they have been one of the greatest mysteries in the natural world. There is no grass inside them, only baked red earth. Scientists have waged intellectual wars over their origins. Some believe they are the work of subterranean sand termites, systematically clearing the vegetation above them to prevent plants from drinking the rainwater, creating an underground reservoir. Others argue it is a silent, brutal chemical warfare between the plants themselves. In a landscape with so little water, the plants organize themselves into complex mathematical equations, Turing patterns, sacrificing the center to allow a ring of stronger grass to survive on the edges. The NAMIB does not give up its secrets easily. It merely presents the puzzle and waits for us to understand. And in this landscape of puzzles, one species has managed to carve out an existence for over 100,000 years. The San people of the Kalahari. They did not conquer this desert. They became a seamless part of its deep silence. Long before modern civilization, long before agriculture or cities, they understood the language of the sand. They knew how to harvest moisture from hidden tubers buried deep beneath the earth. To survive the dry season, they engineered one of the earliest water storage systems in human history. They carefully drilled holes into the thick shells of empty ostrich eggs. They filled these biological canteens with water, sealed them with beeswax and grass, and buried them deep in the cool sand across vast, trackless distances. They created a hidden, invisible network of survival that only they could map, navigating by the stars, the shape of the dunes, and an intimate connection to the land. They tracked prey by reading the sand like an open book, using poison arrows derived from beetle larvae. They looked at the devastating void of the Kalahari, and instead of despair, they found a way to weave human ingenuity into the very fabric of the wasteland. As the day finally breaks, the sun begins its rapid descent. The temperature of the sand plummets from boiling to freezing in a matter of hours. The sky shifts from a blinding, oppressive white to a deep, bruising violet. The ocean wind picks up once more, and on the horizon the freezing fog begins its silent, relentless march back toward the dunes. The NAMIB and the Kalahari teach us a humbling, awe-inspiring lesson. Life does not require abundance to be epic. It requires persistence. It requires a willingness to adapt to the impossible. While other biomes across our planet change, grow, shift, and eventually collapse, the oldest desert in the world remains utterly, beautifully motionless. It is not a dead place. It is simply a place that has mastered the art of waiting. 80 million years have passed. Empires have risen and fallen to dust. Mountains have crumbled into the sea. But here, the Cold War of Worlds continues every single day. The fog rolls in, the sun burns it away, the beetles climb, the elephants dig, and the desert, silent and eternal, is still winning.